For my first idea, I'm going to talk about like video games and how they affect people. So in the documentary, I'll want to talk about how different sort of video games affect different aged people. So if it's an 18 rated game, how it would affect, say, a 12-year-old or a younger age, and how sometimes whilst playing the games, the people can actually become fixated or aggressive whilst the game's going on. The main point I want to get across is age ratings, because although people say that they matter, in reality they don't, because if there's an 18 rated game, a kid can just ask their parents to buy it, or if they've got older siblings. So I'd quite like to talk about that. Although video games tend to be aimed to young children, the adults I know that, and children and adults, I know that all sorts of people play video games, so I'll try to film the documentary as many people as I can. However, my main age range is going to be between 12 and 25, because I want to mention the history of video games, so people who are older than 25 will remember some of the games that I might be talking about. At the start of the documentary, I will tell the audience a bit about like the history of video games, to mention about how they've come about and how much they've changed since they first appeared. So a bit about that history. And I would also like to try and interview people who can't live without video games, and people who just hate them. And I'd also like to try and interview someone who may be like an amateur game maker, so they can give their point of view on why they've decided to make games, and whether they think that certain games should be aimed towards certain people, or whether it doesn't really matter, and that if a game's too violent it shouldn't be made.
You obviously said with the, like you said with the age now, the games obviously it says 18 and parents will buy them for them. I agree with that, and it is very, because it does happen. It's happened for me. Obviously, I've got my dad to buy me games, and it will affect. Obviously, it does affect children in a bad way, because I have done some bad things in my time over a video game, which I never should have done. But do you think some games can have a positive effect on children as well? So it's not always negative.
Yeah, like I'd obviously mention the games that are okay, and not all like the really graphic, violent games, because not all of them are. And some children can play like good games and not be affected. But the overall point that I want to get across is just how different games can affect different children. So in my experience, people can just become very aggressive, even if they're not playing an aggressive game. If you talk to them whilst they're playing, they'll start swearing at you.
I think you could touch on the parents a bit more as well, as you could actually go to parents and ask them why they actually, what reasons they have to buy their kids a video game, which is obviously not their age limit.
Yeah, because that'd be a good one, because obviously it's the parent who's buying it, and they'd know that their child obviously isn't that age.
They know that it could have a negative effect on their kids. So what reasons do they have?
Yeah, that's actually pretty good. Alright, my second idea is animal charities. In the documentary I'll be talking about like different animal charities and how they've come about and why they're needed, so for like the unwanted, mistreated, or the animals that their owners just can't look after them anymore. The main point I want to get across is that the only way animal charities can continue to help animals is with the public's help. I also want to talk about why it's important for people to look after their pets, and why it is a good idea to research what pet would be best suited to you if you're thinking of getting one. They appeal to my target audience, because I'm obviously aiming at like animal lovers, because there will be the people who feel most passionate about animal charities and wanting to help. So by aiming it towards animal lovers, I'll be able to get across to them how important it is. But obviously I'm not saying that people who don't like animals can't watch it. Although I hope that the audience in my documentary will know about animal charities, I will still talk a bit about what they are and how they help and why they help. I'll give the audience background information in case they're curious about it and they don't know what the real story behind it is. Key groups I'd like to interview are people who obviously work for animal charities, whether they help run one or if they're just a volunteer there, because most of them don't get paid for their work. So they're doing it out of a kindness.
Yeah.
And I'd also quite like to talk to people who disagree with animal charities, and then people who obviously support them and think that they are one of the best things.
Have you ever thought of maybe going to like a vet's for probably animals that have been injured, which aren't there, and maybe take them into a vet's to get them helped out? Like you've seen it in plenty of like veterinary shows where someone's brought in a bird that's broken a wing or something.
Yeah.
We talk about that from a
Yeah,
vet's point of view.
because then it's not an actual pet, and they still have to do something with it. They can't go, oh, because it's not a pet. You
put
can't.
it down or something horrible like that.
So yeah, I think of doing that because that's obviously it's a different situation. It's not a pet because people then might feel differently about it.
Definitely. Yeah, I thought about an expository mode again as well, because then maybe why you can like film something happen, like maybe a dog walking in the park or something. You could also do a voiceover saying the stats and statistics of how many pets are brought into vets, or how many pets are like. You know. Yeah,
so like so how many animals are injured?
Yeah.
Just like as a for instance, or people who are like animals that are actually harmed. Yeah.
It's actually you hear plenty of dog attacks now as well. So talk about from there as well.
I think you should you could go to what's it, RSPCA?
Yeah.
Get their views on it, and you could also ask like if there's going to be more type of charities that are opening that could help on the subject.
Yeah, because obviously they'd know quite a lot about it, and they're one of the main ones that help all sorts of animals rather than just like cats or dogs.
Yeah. A lot of interviews you could take from him.
Yeah. And my third idea is aspiring young models. So in the documentary, I'll be talking about how difficult it is for teenagers to get into modelling, but I won't be mentioning about like how the media view them. So I won't be talking about how the media says you have to be a size 0 to be beautiful, because that's not what I'm aiming at. I just want to mostly talk about the difficulties of actually trying to find agencies, and so the main point I always want to get across is how difficult it is to stand out in the modelling industry, as everyone's trying to be unique, but then obviously everyone's trying to be unique, so they're all doing the same thing. Also finding modelling agencies, because you can't just type in modelling agencies, and also if you're under 18 you're classed as a child's agency model. If you're over 18 you can still be on a child's agency's book, but you don't get as much work as you would if you were younger, so you then have to go onto an adult agency. So the target audience that I'll mostly be aiming it towards are 16 to 18s, because that's when I found it most difficult at the age of 16 to try and find agencies. But I'm not ruling it out to just girls, because obviously boys do want to be models as well. So yeah, I'll be trying to get views from both boys and girls between that age, and I will give a very short, brief introduction to the documentary about the agencies and certain things like that. So it's not really like actual information, but it's about like what you can do if you're trying to become a model, if you're actually considering getting into it. So I'd like to interview obviously agencies in like London who don't necessarily just specify for adults, and I'd also like to talk to people who are 16 to 18 to get their points of view on whether they think you should be older to be a model, or if that would be a good time, because obviously you're leaving either year 11 and then finding something to do. So I'd be talking to both agencies and aspiring models.
Yeah. Obviously, we know you're a model as it is. But are you going to talk about your agency as well? Could you go have an insight to your agency and see from their point of view why they maybe have this rule or anything like that? Get insight to it.
Yeah, because someone told me that it'd be a good it might be good to put in like actual footage that I might have done, but then I don't. It's just like whether it'd seem pointless because it's not going to help the people watching it, or if it's saying like you shouldn't give up because you can eventually get there.
I think what would be good, obviously, as you said, that all models don't need to be a size 0. Maybe you could ask your agency to maybe get an interview with maybe a bigger model
Yeah.
and see like how did they have any struggles going through with how they got the job, or did they just say I want to be a model and they got it.
Yeah.
See if they ever like people ever question saying, oh, you're too fat to be a model, like all the rude stereotypicals that people probably get. But if you get that, you can also get aside from maybe being not being too big, but maybe being like a bit bigger built. And
Yeah, so like a plus size.
Yeah.
So obviously, if you're a plus size doing like a normal model thing, people instantly just start calling you names
Yeah,
and
it's
being rude.
not nice. That's just how.
Yeah, because then it would obviously like make you feel really self-conscious.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you could add like a lot of participation in this, as you could maybe get like a friend or someone who isn't a size 0, but they're actually very close to it. So they're not size 0, but they're just a bit above, and then you can maybe have them try out, go to like professional agency and see if they could get in
Yeah.
and how easy it is or not. That could be used for actuality footage.
Yeah.
And then you could also spark a debate, like if they do get in and if they don't. And if they
Yeah.
don't get in, you could say, oh, why is this? She's not exactly overweight,
Yeah.
but she's not exactly size 0, but what's the difference?
Hmm.
You could spark a
You
debate.
go to a lot of depth with that as well.
Yeah, because then
A lot of
it's
depth.
because media's saying that you need to be a size 0, but then the agency will be saying that you don't. So then kids are starving themselves for no reason.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good idea.
It could be good to use bias in that one actually.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, got good for you.
Right then.
Well done, everyone. Well done.